Roads. Roads. There's a problem. Okay. I could invent wheels and could even manufacture them at sawmills and stuff, and also do other stuff. And I had some small operations going on around in different places. And getting my things there were, setting up new mines was a nightmare task of getting stuff to a location where trees were cut down, elephants, and under through great effort, and like hundreds of people, wagons and equipment could be taken to different locations. It was one of those things where it cost a lot of metal or money to actually be able to do. Most things had to be piecemealed in. In other words, if an elephant couldn't carry it, it didn't get there because there were no roads. There was nothing. There was hills and ships and canals, and that's it. And there weren't even canals. There were just ships and some streams. Anyway, though, but the thing was I could make wheels, and I wanted to do chariots. I wanted to do roads. I wanted to do a travel service. So I wanted to build more mines. So the problem was, of course, that I tried doing travel service, and there was a travel service that I had where I paid bits of metal to locals to ferry people around. One of my people would take a bag of metal, and he would pay little bits if he wanted to travel somewhere. And they could travel between my factories and all that other stuff that way. Locals were told to, and basically locals would accept metal anyway, because you could take the little bits of metal and melt it down and make a knife. My metal was very good. And then you could cut things, chop things, and all that kind of stuff. Locals loved my metal money because they would just, they could melt it, make a pot, and smelt it into something else. And they knew how to smelt things. So anyway, first travel service, first wagons. I wanted to sell wagons. I wanted to sell stuff. I could sell horseshoes. Great. Everyone needed a horseshoe. But there were no roads. So a key part to selling wagons or chariots, of course, is roads. Nobody wants a wagon or a chariot if there aren't any roads to travel on. So, in order for me to sell wagons and chariots, I had to make roads. And I wanted to have a travel service anyway, and I wanted to set up new mines other places. I wanted to see what was out there. So I paid to have roads and other things made, paths cleared. And so what they talk about in this, like the secret history of the British Garden, I was paying to have roads made. At first I thought, well, at least a 4-foot wide road. Just a little path, basically, for like a little chariot, a little 4-foot wide chariot. And the other chariots will have to get out of the way. But a 4-foot wide path between going across country and going to all my different factories, at least. Actually, it started out as a 2-foot wide, which was just basically like a path that you could put stuff on elephants. In fact, there are probably pictures of metal stuff being carried by elephant up hills and stuff because there were no roads, and the only thing that could go up certain hills was an elephant. And they could carry about 300 to 500 pounds, if balanced right. I think 800 pounds if it was a beefy, big elephant. So anyway, elephants were useful, and I used them a lot to carry my stuff around. And there were 2-foot wide paths going a lot of different places. So an elephant could go. An elephant needs about 2 foot to 4 foot wide to walk, basically. There is a certain stance that you need to have in order to have an elephant be able to cruise. So, and I think that was about 4 foot wide. So there were little 4-foot paths going everywhere. And they were built, and I was paying for that. And it was like, I felt like it was the last thing I was ever going to do because it was so expensive. But I had metal mines, and people liked metal, so I was paying for that. So I got my little 2-foot wide paths going to all my different mines and all my different locations. And we were moving along, and then my chariots finally started to become popular. People finally wanted to buy my chariots because they could actually go places on a chariot. Before, horses were most popular because a horse could go almost anywhere. 4-hoof drive. Posy-Lock-Ruins. Anyway, horses could go all kinds of places, but horses didn't do me a lot of good because most of my stuff was 300 pounds and greater. Like most of my stuff was 800 pounds or so. In fact, it was frustrating because I had the 800-pound limit. It's like, well, okay, so basically it had to be able to be taken apart and assembled in spots. So everything had to be 300 pounds or less. And also balanced. So there had to be two of everything because otherwise elephant falls over. And they made special little things to carry odd things, on top of the elephant's back, and that had to be a special little, like, padded and carefully done. And I had engineers doing that as well, to balance something on top of the elephant, so we could carry like a single 800-pound piece. Pain in the bleepy bleep 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 bleep. And I think elephants need 4 foot wide of trail. I don't think they do well on 2 foot wide trails, or they need 3 foot wide. There's a certain distance apart that the road has to be flat, level, or they don't like it otherwise. It doesn't work out that well. So anyway, so roads had to be made that big, and then finally, and then later on, we started expanding more and more and getting the 6 foot roads. And finally, I was able to offer my first travel service, where you basically were issued a ticket, and you got a stamp saying that you visited this city, blah, 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 blah. And then you would take that ticket then to the connecting carriage, and then he would stamp it. It was stamped in the previous city going to the next city or something like that. Anyway, the stamping system. You got to stamp at every location saying that at the previous location, and then you'd get a new stamp at the new city, which was when you left that city. And then you'd go to the next city, blah, 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 blah. And you could travel around like that. And then you could get to a ship and you'd get another stamp saying that you traveled, which basically meant it was a one-way ticket, pretty much. And then you could buy another ticket, and then you get stamps back. But you could travel almost anywhere like this. And that ran for a couple years. But it was my first world travel. I was really happy to be offering the first travel service. But it's because I owned all the roads, I built all the roads, paid for all the roads. I had elephants on my roads, carrying all my different mining equipment around and stuff. And it was one of those things, Anyway, that was a long, 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 long time ago.